Hello, welcome back to yet another NOTCAST. Will Mark ever shut up? No, absolutely not. It's number 349. It is the 30th of December 2023. And I have been doing not very much over the past few weeks, having some well-earned R&R, as they say in war movies, rest and recuperation. And that means I spend increasing amounts of time talking to my phone about things that not many people are interested in, but you are because you're watching this, which is wonderful. Hello. I am going to talk about my favourite albums of 2023 now. And I've chosen 10 albums. There are 2 extras, which are sort of compilations and sort of aren't. And my favourite album of the year didn't actually come out in 2023. I found it in 2023. So that's a shocker. Please forgive me. So, because music is not a competition, I am going to go through this alphabetically. And for alphabetically, I'm going to use generally the name of the surname of the artist, even though they may not necessarily use that surname anymore, because I am contrary and awkward, and that is how I work. One of my top 10 albums of the year then. This one will surprise you, an artist I haven't spoken out before on here, Sophie Ellis Max, who I think is fabulous and very good. You know, sentimental, a bit slushy occasionally, clearly pop, absolutely unashamed to do that and be very, very good at it as well. So her album, Hannah, which was, I think, written mostly in 2020, was inspired by the trip that she made with her family to Japan in February 2020, just before lockdown and the COVID thing happened. And we had the fucking that ruined 2020 and most of 2021 as well. This is a short, succinct, lovely and sweet, fun 10-song album. I got this CD with an in-store for a show, so saw her live, played the album in full. And we have signed postcards, which is always nice to see, although I'm beginning to think maybe unsigned copies of the album are actually rarer. And the booklet here. So this is just 10 songs now. Some lovely songs on here. I've come to this album and repeatedly listened to this album many times during the course of the year. And every time I listen to it, it feels to me like I'm kind of having a conversation with somebody that's a distant friend that I haven't seen for a long period of time. And sometimes that's what you want music to be. You want music to be something that's there for you, even if your relationship to the music and the musician is something that they themselves are completely oblivious of. I mean, obviously, I have a lifelong love of a certain band from Crawley who, as far as I'm aware, none of them actually know that I'm alive. And that's okay with me. That doesn't have to be part of the conversation. What has happened is that the relationship I have with the music and what the music does to me and what it means to me. Hannah is, I think, a really good, solid album, and it has some great songs on it. Difficult to pick out a specific one that leaps out. He's a Dreamer is particularly good. 1,000 Orchids I really like. Orchids, Breaking the Circle, Broken Toy. All of them are really good, and I'm not really able to be vastly articulate about that. They are good, solid, well-made songs that when I listen to them, they just give me this sense of warmth and love and just a really nice mood. Sometimes you need an album to be a really comfortable pair of slippers that you can put on, and it's exactly that. I absolutely love it. One of my albums of the year. Sorry, that's blown all my indie cred straight out of the water. You're probably sat there going, surely it's Nun Rapers, Corpses of the Butterfly. Yeah, it's like, well, no, because I don't like them and I don't think that band exists either. So I'm not a snob when it comes to music. I like music that's made by bands that are absolutely huge, some of the biggest bands in the world. And some artists that absolutely are not the biggest bands in the world. All that really matters is what it does to me, and that's the key thing. Second on my list of albums of the year, and because we're going alphabetically, we've had B for Baxter. What comes after B? Well, we've got C, nothing from C. We've got D for the Depeche Modes, and Memento Mori, the 15th studio album already, good God, in 40 years. And this is obviously the first album that they've made as a duo following the death of Andrew Fletcher, and I rate this album highly. I do not rate the release strategy or the cost of the price of the album, or the tickets, or in fact any much else about it. But this is a really great little record. I would say great is probably not the word, but when you get to my age, i.e. an advancing age, because I am 50 years old now, good God, how did that happen? Well, all it really took was for me to not die. But when you get to my age, I kind of listen to the records, and instead of having old albums that remind me of what life was like when I was younger, and I saw this terrible post on Twitter where somebody said about, bands that you listen to remind you of when life was better. And I'm like, well, if you think life was better years ago, maybe you're not very good at life, because life itself can be absolutely fantastic. Obviously, David Bowie said that aging is the process by which you become who you always could have been. For me, growing older and growing more experienced and experiencing new things as an adult is an absolutely fascinating experience. To think, okay, so 50s, 60s, okay, maybe when I get to 80 my back's going to hurt every time I pick up a spoon, it's not going to be so amazing. But at the moment, me getting older and me learning to understand and becoming part of a great historical tapestry of events of which I am just a bit player in, it's really interesting and fascinating. And I love getting old. I mean, certainly it's better than the alternatives. Memento Mori is a really great record for me. Not perhaps the best Depeche Mode album ever made, because it's not called Songs of Faith and Devotion. Yeah, I said it. I didn't say Violator. Songs of Faith and Devotion is better than Violator. I will not fight you. I will just be right and smug about it if I say that. But Memento Mori is an album that, from its very title down all the way through the whole thing, a number of things run through the album like a stick of inescapable Blackpool or Basildon rock. Themes around mortality, death, aging, position, history, legacy. Who am I? What am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to become? All that and more is inside the 12 songs that are on this record, and I obviously have done a NOTCAST about this in July, so if you want to hear a more expansive and exhaustive version of my thoughts talking about the record itself, you'll have to watch that. But I think Memento Mori is one of my albums of the year. Really great, and also proof that as you get older, you don't have to become rubbish or awful. You don't have to be like AC/DC, constantly repeating yourself with songs about sex and women, when you can write songs about sex and death instead. And there are no innuendos on this album, so the AC/DC innuendo count is very, very low for Depeche Mode. And Memento Mori is, I think, a really unexpectedly good album. I wasn't expecting them to make an album this good. Truth be told, when a band gets to this age, they normally just kind of carry on a bit, and they like make a record every few years. They tour every few years. It's an excuse for them to tour, is to go on the back of the amazing #1 album that sold 27,000 copies. And it's not always that good. And sometimes you go and see bands that are older, and you think, that's because they remind me of who they used to be, or they remind me of what life was like when I was younger, or when life was better. No. 1991 was fucking awful. At least it was for me. It may not have been for you. If you'd like to swap years and you can have my 1991 and I'll have yours, I might take you up on that. There might need to be a few questions and a bit of due diligence to take place beforehand. Now, the music I love and the music I listen to is music that helps me kind of navigate and chart my way through life now, and is current to me now and speaks to me now. Memento Mori definitely does that. Number 3 on my alphabetical list of alphabeti spaghetti. After D comes E, and we have Explosions in the Sky and their album End. Now, I must admit, I was really scared when they announced the release of this album End, because I was like, does that mean that you're coming to an end? Is this going to be your last studio album? I don't know. It could be. It really could be. But End is one of my albums of the year. So if you don't know Explosions in the Sky, fantastic American, mostly instrumental post-rock band. They kind of issue things like verses and choruses in favour of ebb and flow, waves and tides, texture, sound, and as an experience, as opposed to being a song delivery system. And that's where End is really good. It's a mood piece. This, alongside a couple of other albums that I've listened to this year, it's really difficult for me to pick out individual songs that I enjoy on these. but more easy just to pick out. This is a particular mood, a particular headspace that this record creates for me that I really, really enjoy. So Explosions in the Sky and End. All of these choices, by the way, are on Spotify, so give them a listen if you can. So carrying on from that, our next choice, and this is perhaps a little bit different, but I'm going to go with it. This is either a K or an M, so I'm going to err on the side of caution with a K. The clever and astute amongst you will already know that I'm talking about Australia's second finest woman, Kylie Minogue, and the album Tension. Tension is, I love pop. I really, really do. There is nothing wrong with being clear and obvious and direct in your records. Absolutely nothing. The only people that think there is something wrong with that are snobs. And I am not a snob at all, despite the fact that it was my favourite nightclub in Birmingham in 1995. Tension is, I think, a very good pop record. And one of the great things about Kylie over time is, well, it's always different. It's always the same. She's kind of like the pop four, if that makes sense, but without the arguments, the fighting, the alcoholism, the punching the band members on stage, or pissing yourself in light-coloured trousers. So everything that she does is an evolution from what she's done previously. It's another kind of step in the journey. It's another kind of bit of paint on the canvas of life, but Tension is a great pop record, and it talks about some of the great feelings that happen. So one of the things that is talked about a lot, and people think it's banal in music, is songs about love. Love is the best thing that we can do. It's the most important thing that we can do. It's also mostly the most fun thing that can ever happen to a human being, apart from possibly having several tablets of ecstasy with your shreddies. I don't recommend that, by the way. Seek medical advice before you try it. I imagine it's quite fun, but a little bit weird unless you're in a disco. Love is a thing that people write about constantly in pretty much every song that is written, apart from the songs by my next choice. That will surprise you. But Tension is one of the finest albums of the year, because there are very few records that really, to me, capture that giddy sense of what happens when you meet somebody, and the synapses fire up, the chemicals bounce around inside each other. That sense of, oh my God, I've met this amazing new person, and I can explore a whole new universe and create my own mythology with this person. There is very little in the world that's intoxicating as that. I still have distant memories of the last time that happened, and they're very nice indeed. But that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about with Tension is that it's about tension and release. So there's that tension of meeting somebody, and is that going to turn it into something different? And what kind of release are we going to have? So I have the signed print version, which you got from the Kylie web store for a very brief period of time. This is the limited edition transparent orange vinyl version of the record, alongside the deluxe expanded book set version, which has some bonus tracks in it. And let's not pretend that this is this particularly means anything. It's just that these songs are lovely, great pop songs. Padam Padam, probably my song of the year in terms of a pop single. Songs like Hold On To Now, Things We Do For Love. These are songs where you kind of listen to and go, they're talking about something which, if you're lucky, you get to experience once in the course of your life. I've experienced it, I think, probably 4 times, I think. And whilst obviously I have regrets about a couple of those, I never regret the ability to do that. And to meet people and to be in love. And there's songs like Love Train, Just Imagine, Somebody to Love. Okay, so there is one stinker on the album. I am going to have to be really obvious about this. That is called 10 out of 10, which features Oliver Heldens. Sorry, Oliver, your section where you just reel off various physical attributes to a human being or mental attributes and then just go 10, 10, 10. It's not very good. I might fan edit that section out of the song if I can be bothered, but that still gives that song a degree of thought and effort that I'm not sure I can truly be bothered about. Let's see if we can find the lyrics to 10 out of 10 on here. Body, 10. Touch, 10. Energy, 10. 10 out of 10. Nah, I don't like that bit. Apart from that, the rest of this record is a perfect, high-octane, lovely, enjoyable, sweet sugar thrill of perfect pop. Absolutely loved this album. One of my 10 of the year. So this one, 10 out of 10. Right, the next one we've got. Now, I said the next band was going to be a band that have never, ever written about relationships. That's not strictly true, but they certainly don't write about happy things, because that band are San Francisco's finest thrash exports, Metallica. The band that eats babies for breakfast and then tells their therapist about how it makes them feel sad. 72 Seasons, released in April, is a banger of a record. When you get to the age that this band are at, in their 60s or thereabouts, the idea of doing like a double album around, you know, death, mortality, age, all these things, such a weird concept. Here is my fan club edition, smoky vinyl. Not quite sure why. At the moment, Metallica have done something like 17 or 30 different coloured vinyl versions of this album, including versions you can only buy at pop-up shops at gigs in places like San Diego and Stuttgart. A bizarre fucking rip-off, to be honest. It's the music that matters. It's the music that does something to me. And again, this is one of those albums that makes me feel that as you get older, as you experience stuff, as you go through life, a electric thing, this world life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time, as the Mighty Prince once had it. But it's an album which, to me, is around, you know, that sense of you should never stop aspiring towards a certain state of mind. Never stop aspiring. Never stop asking questions. Never stop learning. Never stop seeing what's beyond the next mountain to find out what's going on. It's about the endless search, the endless quest, and also about how the actions that have taken place during your childhood, the first 72 seasons of your life, the first 18 years, have influenced and formed who you are today. And you have a choice, as I did when I was growing up, is to either copy the behaviours that you see, or to have those behaviours teach you as to how not to be. The lesson I took away from the behaviours I saw when I was up to the age of 18 was these are things not to be, because I experienced what it was like on the other side of that to be a child growing up in a dysfunctional environment that didn't even put the fun into dysfunctional, and to go, no, not for me. 72 Seasons is a fabulous little record. I mean, little is not the word. It's full of epics. It's got riffs that you could use as can openers. They're so sharp and so jagged. And it's just a great record, which I really, really enjoy. You think about some of their contemporaries, Megadeth, for example, Anthrax, the now defunct Slayer. Some of those records which those bands made towards the end of their career, not Slayer's, because Slayer are awesome, but some of the Megadeth albums, some of the later Anthrax albums, you kind of sit there and go, you haven't really got anything to say, have you? You're trying to stay current by releasing a record, but nobody's interested. And nobody's interested because it's not particularly good. I really, really rate 72 Seasons. I think it's a really good album, and one of my albums of the year. Right, next album, and again going alphabetically because that's the best way to do it, is 2 albums for the price of 1. And the reason it's 2 albums for the price of 1 is because they were both recorded at around about the same time. It is 2 albums by everyone's favourite sad dads, The National, and the first 2 pages of Frankenstein and Laugh Track. Both are effectively, the band made a double album, split it into 2 parts, and released it 6 months apart. Other bands have done this before. Guns N' Roses with Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, Metallica with Load and Reload. But they've never given them, or actually the Manics actually as well, with Rewind the Film and Futurology, which were released less than a year apart from each other. These are 2 records that were released in the same year. They have broadly similar cover art, typography, design, the whole thing. They feel very much like they're 2 sides of the same coin. And it's difficult for me to pick a favourite out of this, because I don't think you can. I think that to fully understand one, you have to know the other, and vice versa. These have got some great songs on. Obviously, there's nothing on here that immediately struck me the way that Vandelay or Crybaby Geeks has, or some of the other material. But there's some great songs on here. New Order T-shirt is particularly good. Weird Goodbyes, I like that. Yeah, they're all really, really great, really interesting songs. Obviously, they're all slow to slowish songs written in a minor key with lyrics about not necessarily knowing your place in the world, splitting up with people or not finding people, and all that type of stuff. They are very much, I would say, it's going to sound bitchy to say it's not going to win them any new fans. That's not true. What it isn't going to do is there's no new styles that have been introduced in these records, but that's okay, because sometimes what you want is a sad song that makes you feel good. And that is exactly what these do, is that, you know, so partially they're like audio Prozac. So I listen to them and go, wow, I'm never going to feel that sad. And then the second part of it is me going, at least somebody else is out there talking about what it's like to feel like this, because not everybody necessarily articulates it. And you think about, you know, for example, people like Timmy Mallet or other game show hosts, and you kind of go, well, if that's how you always feel and you never feel any different, you're not a person. You're just you know, a laughter machine. Now, there's an element of thinking that laughing in the face of danger is actually a form of fatalism, a way of recognising the gravity of the situation and laughing at it to diffuse the potency of our own impending mortality and death. Well, I'm a cheery sort, aren't I? Happy New Year. But no, that's not necessarily how I think it. There's a dark sense of humour that runs in some of these songs and some of these bands, and with this album, the first 2 pages of Frankenstein, for example, and of course Laugh Track as well, there's a sense of looking and finding and searching for your place in the world as you get older. And that's something I still do every day, as I'm asking myself a question about who am I, what am I going to be, and what's my life going to be, and what's my future going to look like. And it has one of the best titled songs ever, this one, which is New Order T-shirt. The lyric is, I keep what I can of you, split-second glimpses and snapshots of sounds. You in my New Order T-shirt, holding a cat and a glass of beer. And I mean, when I was younger, and this sounds bizarre, but when I was younger, owning a New Order T-shirt was a big deal. It was like a marker to say to people, this is who I am, this is what I like, this is what I believe. And New Order were, and probably still are, a pretty damn cool band, truth be told. A band whose work kind of talks about sadness and joy in the same sentence and in the same song, and melds those two together in the perfect combination of euphoric regret, which to me makes them one of the best bands in the world. The second album is Laugh Track, and Laugh Track obviously takes its name from the now thankfully dying out trend of putting laugh tracks onto comedies. Now, with the death this year of Matthew Perry of Friends, I had memories of going back and you know, watching literally like hundreds of hours of Friends in the 90s with my then girlfriend Jo, who was the first person that I ever fell in love with, and what an incredible experience that was to be with that person at that time in my life. And as far as I can tell, they've gone on to remain a lovely human being, which is a really important achievement to make in the shape of a terrible world that tries to destroy us and make us cynical and old. But that time that I spent with her moved me from a child to a man to an adult, and I couldn't have asked at the time for a better person to have known and to have loved during those years as I became the person that I was going to become. And in the same way that there's still a part of 50-year-old me that's in touch with 15-year-old me, there's still a part of 50-year-old me that's really in touch with 25-year-old me, and constantly kind of pushing back and asking the question, going, what would 25-year-old me think of this? And obviously, apart from the fact that 25-year-old me drank a hell of a lot and was a bit of a dickhead on occasion, to any of you who met me when I was drunk and thought I was a dickhead 25 years ago, really sorry, you're probably right, and I think exactly the same thing. But at the same point, I was a person to whom actually even just owning a New Order T-shirt was an impossible dream, because to own a New Order T-shirt meant that I would have seen New Order, I would have gone to have seen them play a show, I would have stood in a room with them, and I would have seen the songs that meant so much to me played live in front of my very eyes, which I couldn't have imagined was happening, considering that the band played Birmingham, where I was growing up, 10 miles from my house when I was 15, and then they didn't play Birmingham again for another 23 years, and then sometimes they wonder why they're not playing the same size rooms that they once were. I don't know. The other thing about Laugh Track is the name of the album, Laugh Track. As I was saying about Friends, laugh tracks are terrifying when you think about them, especially the fact that most laughter is canned and was recorded in the 50s during on-studio set recordings, and that means that almost everybody that you hear on a laugh track has been dead for decades, if not already has been dead for a very long time indeed. In the same way, and I think laugh tracks are really false. They're a way of imposing and enforcing laughter onto something. So I watched Red Dwarf with the laugh track and without the laugh track. And watching it with the laugh track, it feels wrong and forced, and you're not allowed to enjoy it at your own speed. It's like watching a horror movie and listening to the audience going, ah! Whenever the monster comes out of the hole, because they're taught you that's the bit which has got to be scary. And it's like, no, that's not how scares work. That's not how some people respond to existential terror when a huge spider with a human head comes out of a wall or something like that. So yeah, laugh track draws attention to the artificial element of entertainment. And it's a really great record alongside the first 2 pages of Frankenstein. Right. Bored yet? I'm not. Next album, again, going alphabetically, Orbital's Optical Delusion. This comes in a number of different configurations. The first one I'm going to mention is this version, which I bought from the band's website, which was a signed CD plus the bonus disc of 4 extra tracks. And this features, by the way, there is no quality gap between the tracks that are on here and the tracks that are on here. There's a lot of good material that came out during this period, and Orbital, being a duo of brothers, Phil and Paul Hartnell, have been making music for a very long time and generally doing a very bloody good job of it over the years. The music is distinctive. It's kind of an intelligent electronic dance music, so it's designed to make you dance and think at the same time. The songs feel like architecture or lattice work. You know, when you look at the scaffolding on the outside of a building and you go, that's all there designed to carry and contain and hold something together. That's what this music does. It's intricate, it's mathematical, it's enjoyable, and it's got just the right amount of weird in it to make it work. So what I will say, minus points for the release strategy of this album, which is one of the reasons why I don't love it more, because buying all the various versions of all the various tracks was a real pain in the bloody arse. So this version, you had to buy from the website, their website, £10 for a signed copy plus the CD, which features 2 instrumentals and a remix and an extended version of a track called Oxygen. So that's 4 extra tracks. This is number 130. I don't know how many they actually made or sold of this, but this is one of them which I had. And then you had to buy the edition from Amazon, which contained 3 extra tracks, being The Crane, Year of the Bat, and Lost in Time. And these were, again, no quality gap between these and the songs which were on the album. They're excellent tracks. They should have been on the records. Also, minus points for what's laughably and insultingly called the digital edition, which you could only buy for, I think, £20 for a download that had some instrumental mixes and some random kind of video and art and stuff which they'd found on a thumb drive somewhere and uploaded by the idea of creating, this deluxe edition. It isn't, it's just an expensive fucking download, guys. Don't try and bullshit me. Digital editions of albums with like making of footage. So the NFTs of the album world, they're fucking bullshit. But, aside from that, Optical Delusion is, to quote the Welsh, bang tidy, by the way. Okay, so we're nearly at the end of my 10 albums. I think I've done 9? No, I've done 7 so far. So, this one, Slow Dive, Everything is Alive. The rebirth of Slow Dive is wonderful. They were not well regarded in the early noughties at all, and for them to have come back, to have been so clearly loved, adored, and to have made these lovely, brilliant records, it's wonderful. The only other band that's done a kind of like a second life career resurgence, as well as or better than Slow Dive, is actually Suede. Because what they've done is they've taken the same lineup, they've added and expanded to the ideas and the visions and the songs that they had originally. They've matured, and I mean, yes, there's a sense that you're kind of missing a few connective steps upon the way. There's a few albums because they didn't make one between 1995 and 2017, so there's 22 years where there wasn't an album. And you listen to it and go, I missed a few important developmental scenes in the band's topography, but that's not the point. The point is that they're here now, they're making great records. Now, there is nothing on Everything is Alive that I can really look at and go, that's an absolute standout, because they're all very solid, great songs. Now, admittedly, it is only 8 tracks. It feels quite short, quite brief, but there's an element of not overstaying your welcome. There's also an element of it being a mood piece where each one of the songs works very, very well as part of a jigsaw with the other songs, and that's how the album works. So, one of my albums of the year, love it to bits, absolutely do. And then the last one before I get to my album of the year is There Will Be Fireworks, and their album which came out last month called Summer Moon. There Will Be Fireworks are a not particularly well-known Scottish band. They don't make albums very often. When they do, they're rare events. They don't play live very much, but again, when they do, they are very good. And they are this brilliantly emotional and unashamedly emotional Scottish rock band. Not in the way of like wankers like Runrig and shit, but a band that's perhaps more sophisticated than that. Has a less flag-waving, chest-beating, King Kong style stupidity, but a song but a band that is so much better than that. It's actually genuinely kind of like ridiculous. My favourite song on this, by the way, is called Second City Setting Sun, and I want to make sure I quote the lyrics correctly because they are wonderful lyrics that spoke to me absolutely at the time when I heard them. Love won't come with a blinding light, a thunder crack, a lightning strike. No love, it comes unannounced, silently and slow. You wake one day and you know it's there, in the way she moves, in the way her hair falls across her face, and the way you notice that I could tell you things I never told a soul. And when I heard that, and I was like, suddenly it kind of like telescoped me into the moments that I remember when, you know, and when you fall in love with somebody, you kind of know, don't you? You feel it because that's a feeling. It's not a logical set of things, you know, as otherwise all relationships would be. As the T-101 says in Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, she is an adult human of breeding age. And then that is not necessarily how that works. It's something else. There's a magic that exists, a chemistry. And that always reminds me of it. It echoes the sentiments in the much underrated Pet Shop Boys song, Love Comes Quickly, which again is one of my favourite songs of all time. And they, it's just what a brilliant album this is. You can listen to it on streaming, give it a shot, give it a try. You might absolutely love it. So, what I haven't told you is my favourite album of 2023, and I have to cheat because my favourite album of 2023 came out in 2021, but I only discovered it in 2023, and for that I am sorry, but hopefully you will forgive me. It is by the Anchoress, and the album is The Art of Losing, available here as the LP or as the 3 CD fancy pants book version, which is deleted and expensive. I've been aware of the Anchoress for a period of time before I got into her music. So I'd seen her live a couple of times. She'd been part of Simple Minds, and I think she'd supported them at a show that I saw. She was also playing live with the Manics and supported them at a show I saw as well. So I'd seen her probably 3 or 4 times. And every time I saw her play, I thought, there's something really interesting going on here. I think I like it. I need to get to know it better. And 2023 was the year that I gave in. I listened to it and I was like, right, I need to hear this stuff. I need to understand what it is and I need to make a decision about whether I like it. And then suddenly the album kind of appeared to me and I listened to it just one day and I was just like, this is incredible. It's one of the best albums I've heard in the past few years, full stop. It has some wonderful songs on it. So, for example, Let It Hurt, Unravel, 5 AM. These are powerful songs which talk about relationships and owning that and the feelings that go with those and how those work and how you navigate your way through it. And 5 AM, oh man, that is, I mean, yeah, that song is about a degree of, well, about reliving a traumatic sexual assault. And my experience as a man certainly could never talk through that in an authentic way. But I've had sexual experiences that I haven't enjoyed, or ones where I've realised at a certain point through them that no, this is not going to, you know, this is not going the way I want it to. This isn't the experience that I was hoping for, and having to either, you know, withdraw your consent or find yourself stuck in a moment that you can't get out of, to quote the U2 song. And 5 AM is a really interesting song. That has there's a quote that's in the booklet that goes alongside the song, and it says, After every atrocity, one can expect to hear the same predictable apologies. It never happened. The victim lies. The victim exaggerates. The victim brought it upon herself. And it's a very good record. Words really do fail me when I talk about how good a record this is. But it's, again, just my favourite album of 2023, even though it only came out in 2021. And I'm sorry that I missed the boat then, but I'm here now, better late than ever. This is my album of 2023, although, of course, it did come out a couple of years beforehand, so forgive me if you can. Instead, this year, the Anchoress did actually release an album as well. This one is, obviously, if I'm only counting albums that came out in 2023, this is the one for me. This is Versions, and this is based upon the 3 CD EPs that were released in 2022 and 2023, cover versions where the songs were taken apart, put back together and recreated as if they were Anchoress originals. And this features versions of songs you will have heard, Enjoy the Silence, for example, Bizarre Love Triangle, Radiohead's Climbing Up the Walls, Friday I'm in Love by The Cure, Penny Royalty by the Nirvanas, Martha's Harbour by All About Eve, This Is Yesterday by the Manics, Sweetness Follows by R.E.M. Immaculate choices, very, very well presented, available here on a signed CD from her Bandcamp, or if you prefer your vinyl, there are still about 20 of the Eco Mix vinyl available. There, an Eco Mix is a lovely little format where they take all the scrapings off the cutting room floor and repurpose them for the record. So it's made out of constitutionally reclaimed vinyl, much like slightly cheaper cuts of meat, but it still sounds marvellous. This is one of my albums of the year as well. I absolutely love it. It has brought new colours and new textures to albums that I already love. So those are my 10 albums of 2023. Now there are 2 others which I need to mention, both of them because they are sort of albums and sort of not. And I've been listening to these a lot. So my 11th choice, and I'm going to be cheeky here, is U2's Songs of Surrender. I have done an episode about this previously. This is the Silver Deluxe expanded edition that was available from the band's website. This is the Amazon exclusive orange vinyl, which I ordered in used acceptable form for £20 instead of £50, to find that some guy had opened it and torn the back a little bit with a Stanley knife, and when I sent Amazon copies of it, pictures, they just said, oh well, we'll just refund you. So hey, free U2 album, much like 2014. Tish. Songs of Surrender, and I do have an episode about Songs of Surrender, is a really great record. Now, it's not for everybody, and you shouldn't think of it as, oh, this is going to be as important as Acton Baby or All That You Can't Leave Behind, or Songs of Innocence or Experience or anything like that. It absolutely isn't doing that at all. This is a different record. This is the band looking at material that they wrote and recorded over the past 45 years, coming back to it as 60-year-old men, revisiting those songs and putting them in a new context. It's a very interesting way of looking at it. It reflects the aging experience of the band members and the band's experiences succinctly and appropriately, and it talks about the way in which the song arrangements have changed, how we've changed. So people go, oh, it's not as good as it used to be. No, it's different. That's what it is. This is different. And this is an album that I've listened a lot to this year. It's a fascinating way of revisiting the band's body of work from a slightly different angle and experiencing it differently. I have a full NOTCAST about it, somewhere around about the 300s, maybe the 290s. So go back to that and listen to that, or watch that if that's what you want to do. If not, and you like U2, come to this with a clean slate and an open mind. It's not meant to be some amazing, jaw-dropping album of new, fantastic anthems as good as anything they've ever done. This is the sound of U2 looking back at their history and putting it in the context of where we are now and how we live our life today. And the last one, and this, were it not a compilation, would absolutely, definitively, positively have been in my top 10 list, is the Wedding Presents 24 songs. The reason this isn't in my albums is because every song on it was recorded and released between 2022 and 2021. It was a compilation of 12 7-inch singles, A's and B sides, between January and December 2022. Presented here on a triple LP, plus 2 CDs and a DVD as well in a book pack. This has some of the best wedding present songs ever, actually. So I'm going to go into here and show you what's on here, although I haven't done this necessarily. I've just talked about the singles. So we have the CD here, which I don't even know which one this is. We have a DVD, and we have another CD, and we have a postcard for the album. In fact, we have a couple of postcards as well, and something that promotes the record company, Clue Records. We have, oh, I haven't shown you this. This is a set list from At the Edge of the Sea, the Wedding Presents 2-day festival in Brighton that takes place every August. It's if you like the Wedding Present, you really should go. It is the highlight of a Wedding Present fans calendar. And then we have 3 vinyl discs here with a total of 30 songs on. This one here is, and let me quickly check. That's a kind of green, isn't it? That is a kind of green, I'm guessing. Yes, it is. Right, and then I'm guessing this one might be a kind of green too. I don't know. Oh, I think it is. Yep. So this is the green deluxe edition, of which 500 were available and sold only through the band's website. And then you have an advert for something from the record label. Oh, they're advertising quite a lot. And then you have a third bonus disc. This has 5 songs on side 6. An extra 5 songs on side 5. So the 5 songs on side 6, by the way, are Panama, White Riot, Jump in the Water's Fine, a Utah Saints remix of We All Came from the Sea, and a cover version of the Ukrainian song Tepe My Hovoromo, which I've undoubtedly mispronounced, got wrong. Please forgive me for that. This is what would be one of my albums of the year, were it not the fact that it was all released in 2022 in slightly different configurations as 7-inch singles. We also have a information sheet here that talks about the album and the DVD documentary and concert footage, editing and things like that. There are some concert footage, there's some concert footage tracks which are on the DVD, and some other short films, and there's a show from Hove's Old Market Theatre in January 2022, which I was at, which was a great show. Really enjoyed it. This has some of the best wedding present songs that I've ever heard on. If I had to be honest, I Am Not Going to Fall in Love with You. That's in my top 10 wedding present songs. So is Science Fiction, which is probably one of the best breakup songs ever written. And of course, as John Peel said, the Wedding Present have written some of the best songs of all time. And if you disagree with me, I am right and you are wrong. There's some wonderful songs on here, and were this not a compilation of previously released material, this would absolutely be in my top 10 albums of the year 2023, unquestionably. I know that some of you don't like the Wedding Present. That is okay. Not many people do like them. And that is a shame, but at the same point, it would be boring if we all liked the same things, wouldn't it? I couldn't imagine what Wedding Present would be like if they were headlining Wembley Stadium. Personally, I'd be both over the moon and really annoyed. Over the moon because the band would be huge and everyone would be getting the same things out of them that I get out of them, which is one of the best bands on the planet. But at the same point, also really annoyed that I couldn't get down the front and I'd have to share it with loads of drunk people, because if you've got 72,000 people in a stadium, let's say 1% of the human population is a psychopath or a sociopath. Those generally aren't pleasant people to be around. If you're in a football stadium, there's probably around about 720-ish psychopaths by the law of averages that are in the same building as you. Those aren't the odds that I like to have. Okay, they really aren't. So whereas if I see the Wedding Present playing to 500 people, that's 5 psychopaths. Those are the kind of odds that I can live with. It makes me feel a little bit better. Again, they're lies, damn statistics. You can prove everything with a spreadsheet, and that is probably, if that isn't a line that's in a Wedding Present song, it probably should be. So those are my albums of 2023. If you've made it this far, fantastic. Thank you. I love you, even though I don't know who you are. And thank you for watching. And if you haven't made it to the end, it doesn't matter what I say because you're not watching. So, yah, boo, to you. And if you have made it to watch all of these or many of these over the course of the year, thank you for watching them. I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate the comments. I read the comments. I bin the nasty ones. I frame the good ones and the nice things that you say. It's so nice actually when I do an episode and says, this is much awaited, and I'm like, really? Wow, that's lovely to hear. It really is. So thank you very much for watching. If you've watched these previously, this is not going to be my last one for the year. I'm going to do one tomorrow, which is going to be the 31st of December, a wrap up of 2023. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't like it, subscribe anyway and don't watch. That would be lovely. And I will see you all again soon. Okay, let's go where the blue skies turn you on. Well, actually, it's grey skies, isn't it? But let's pretend it's summer instead of winter. And that means I'm going to go and put this in front of the camera now. Oh, isn't the weather lovely this time of year? Yep, it really, really is. Not at all the day before New Year's Eve. And it's not at all cold, windy, rainy, or generally unpleasant. Weather turned out nice again. Bye.